You know what? If it says Volcano, I'll go Volcano. Back when I was a kid, I typically did the levels in clockwise order. So I'd go Jungle, Inlet, Volcano, whatever the other one is. But yeah, we can do the Volcano second for a change. But so yeah. The biggest how should I put this? So a lot of Game Gear games I've found, or at least the ones that I owned, I've found don't really hold up very well at all. And the biggest reason for that is that there's a lot of unfairness as far as blind jumps, and enemies sort of rushing at you, and you don't have time to react to things. And all of that is basically, I didn't know it when I was a kid, but all of that is basically as a consequence of the fact that Game Gear games were pretty much almost all Game Gear games were ports of Master System games. It was really easy to port Sega Master System games onto the Game Gear back in the day because the hardware was so similar, except on the Game Gear you had a lower resolution screen, so it's... And yeah, they wouldn't redraw the sprites or anything so that you'd have like kind of the same... the same viewing area to work with. They just cropped off the edges of the screen so that you have less visible area to work with. And so... And yeah, so you'd end up with all of these games designed for like the Master System resolution and for like the large Master System like TV size viewing area, and then you have those games ported to Game Gear where they just like cut off the edges. Like if you can imagine if like they just cropped off like the cameras, if you just like keep the camera centered on Donald here and then just cut off like basically half of the area of the screen and just center, just put your hands, just cover up like half of the screen with your hands on like either side, and you'll get an idea of like what it was like to play this game on the Game Gear. It was just aggravating, especially those like boss chase sequences, because you just didn't have time to react to stuff that was coming at you. And it's just, yeah, big hassles. And that's a common thread that I found with a lot of Game Gear games, or at least the ones that I owned back in the day. So that's part of the reason that I'm going on this kind of, I don't know, Master System Discovery Odyssey, is I'm curious to see how many of those old Game Gear games of mine would actually be really improved by experiencing them on the Master System in their original intended resolution. And yeah, so far what I'm seeing so far is that Deep Dock Trouble definitely benefits a lot from the increased viewing area, or the larger screen of the Master System. It's like, yeah, there's pretty much none of the cheap hits that I found in the Game Gear version. It's like you see the bats in this level. It's like on the Game Gear I just couldn't react to those bats in time. It's like they'd be rushing at me and I'd just get hit by them and there'd be nothing I could do about it because I don't have enough space on the screen to react to them in time. Whereas, yeah, and it's just the composition of the levels as well. Everything seems like centered a lot better. And there's not like a bunch of weird issues with like where like stuff is scrolling up and down constantly. And it's just, yeah, it's just the game just seems a lot less janky, other than the aforementioned slowdown issues, which are actually worse. But other than that, it just seems, it seems obvious to me so far that the Master System was definitely like the way that this game was intended to be played. That they like developed this with the Master System in mind, and then just cropped it for the Game Gear version and called it a day. So yeah, based on this so far, I'm really curious to see how many other of my old Game Gear games would be similarly improved by the move to Master System. Although, so anyways, yeah, I was talking before. Man, that was a long tangent. I guess it wasn't really a tangent because I wanted to talk about it eventually. But anyways, so this game and DuckTales. So yeah, like I said, yeah, you take out the pogo bounce from DuckTales and you aren't really left with much of anything as far as like unique mechanics or anything. It's like you've got the block kicking, which is, you know, there, I guess, but it's not really that much of it doesn't really like define the game as a core mechanic or anything like that, the way the pogo bounce did. And really this game, as far as mechanics go, this game doesn't really have anything really that sort of sets it apart. And so it's in that regard that I'd say that it's really just kind of your bog standard, generic 2D platformer. But on the other hand, I think it's a really well done one. Like the aforementioned graphical detail and colors and all that. This is a really good looking game. Like I said, I'm not really familiar with the Sega Master System and its graphical capabilities or anything, but as far as 8-bit games though, like this game looks much better than anything I remember on the NES back in the day. So it's so yeah, it definitely has that going for it. And part of that might be just the fact that this game was, for some reason, released very, very late in the Master System's life cycle. And oh yeah, this especially, this was probably the most aggravating quote-unquote boss fight in the game. There was just... Because yeah, soon enough, yeah, we'll see boulders rolling at us. There was absolutely no way you could react to those in time on the Game Gear. Yeah, if you can just like cover up like the front half of the screen with your hand, and you'll get an idea of like what I had to work with on the Game Gear. It was just ridiculous. But so yeah, boss number 2 is a boulder that's just, or I guess a bunch of boulders that are just chasing you for some reason, which is a bit kind of a silly idea for a boss fight. But I guess what else would you do on a volcano? There's a lot of things you could do with a volcano boss fight, but I guess, you know, dragons may be a bit out there for the DuckTales series. Speaking of DuckTales, yeah, I was going on about DuckTales. So yeah, or you know, I was done with DuckTales. So